The twin moons of Arvin hung low over the city's skyline, their pale light falling across the glass towers and floating markets that shimmered in the upper clouds. Below those lights, a young alien woman named Lyra hurried through the narrow metal streets, clutching a small case close to her chest. The hum of engines and the scent of ozone filled the air, but she heard only the slow, weak breathing of her mother echoing in her mind. Her mother was dying. The healer said there was hope, a rare serum found only through human trade. But the price was impossible. No Arvanite could afford it, not even by selling their homes. Lyra's only option was unthinkable in her small home. She owned a collection of sacred alien relics, family treasures passed down through generations, artifacts forbidden to be traded or shown to outsiders. They were her people's pride. Each piece carried history, songs, and memories recorded in light. But Lyra didn't care about pride anymore. She cared about her mother's heartbeat. Fading slower each night, she went to the underground docks, where humans arrived once every few weeks with their strange ships, large, ugly, and built from thick black metal that scared most aliens. The humans were known for their bargains, for seeing value where others didn't. Some said they were dangerous, unpredictable, greedy, but Lyra had no choice. When she reached Dock 17, the human ship was already unloading. Massive crates were stacked like walls, glowing with containment fields. Human soldiers walked around in armored suits, their faces hidden behind reflective glass. The air carried the faint smell of oil and dust. A tall man stood near the ramp, watching the crowd. His suit wasn't like the others, lighter, simpler, almost worn. He looked at her once, calm but unreadable. Lyra took a shaky breath and stepped forward. "I need to trade," she said softly. Holding out her small case, the human tilted his head.
"Scanning her, what do you have?"
he asked, his voice deep and rough. She opened the case. Inside were 3 shining crystals, each one pulsing with soft blue light. The human's visor reflected them like stars. For a long moment he said nothing. "Where did you get these?" he asked quietly. "They belong to my family," Lyra whispered. "I need medicine." "Human medicine? For my mother." The man's eyes softened. He removed his helmet, revealing a scarred but calm face, brown eyes, sharp yet kind. "Do you even know what these are worth?" he asked, almost in disbelief. Lyra shook her head. "I don't care," she said. "Just please, help me." He studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Follow me inside the ship." The air was warm and filled with strange humming machines. Screens glowed with data she didn't understand. He led her to a quiet chamber and motioned for her to sit. "What's your name?" he asked Lyra, she said softly. "And you?" "Call me Grant," he replied, tapping on a console. "You said your mother needs the serum?"
"I can get it, but—"
He hesitated, looking at her again. "You shouldn't sell these." "Not to anyone. I have no other way," Lyra said firmly. "If I lose them, I lose her. That's fine." Grant looked at her like he'd seen that kind of desperation before. "You remind me of someone," he muttered, almost to himself. "All right, Lyra. I'll help you, but not like this," she frowned. "Then how?" He turned off the console and leaned closer. "These crystals are more than treasures. They're power cores, ancient ones, whoever your people are. They guarded something huge, and if you bring these here, others will come for you." Lyra blinked, confused. "I don't understand." Grant's expression hardened. "Someone's following you." Her heart froze. "What do you mean?" He moved to the window, his eyes scanning the dockyard below. "There's a black transport, hasn't moved since you got here," he said quietly. "If you'd traded with anyone else, you'd be dead by now." Lyra's hands trembled as she clutched the case. "They can't know these belong to my clan." Grant turned to her. "Then you'll need to decide, Lyra," he said, voice low and steady. "Do you want to save your mother, or your people's secret?" The ship's lights dimmed suddenly, an alarm echoing through the hull. Outside, shadows moved in the fog, silent and fast. Grant grabbed his weapon and looked at her. "Stay close," he said. "Whoever they are, they're not here to trade." And before she could reply, the world outside erupted in blinding light. The ship shook as the first explosion hit the docking bay. The metal walls trembled and the sound of alarms filled the air. Red lights flashed across the corridor, and Lyra covered her ears as the ground beneath her vibrated. The human Grant didn't flinch. He moved quickly, pressing a code into the wall panel, sealing the door behind them. "What's happening?" Lyra shouted, her voice trembling. "Trouble," Grant replied, his tone calm but sharp. Someone tracked your energy signature, those crystals. They give off a signal when exposed. They know you're here. Her chest tightened. The enforcers? She whispered, fear flickering in her bright eyes. Grant gave a small nod. Maybe, or maybe someone worse, he said, pulling a metallic rifle from the wall mount. Stay behind me, Lyra. The ship rumbled again. Heavy footsteps echoed through the metal halls. The sound of plasma fire burned through the noise. Grant led her down a narrow passage, turning corners fast, his steps steady. Every move showed experience. He had done this many times before. They reached the cargo hold, where several crates had already burst open from the impact. Blue steam hissed out, filling the air with a chemical scent. Lyra stumbled, holding her small case tighter. Grant stopped near a control console and typed fast. A holographic map appeared, showing red dots moving through the ship, closing in on their location. They're breaching the side door, he muttered. We have less than 2 minutes. Lyra looked around, her heart pounding. What do we do? Grant turned to her, his brown eyes meeting hers. You still want to save your mother? Yes, she said without hesitation. Then you'll do exactly as I say, he replied, his tone leaving no room for argument. He opened a small compartment and pulled out a data chip. This contains the formula for the serum you need. It's coded to human medtech standards. But any advanced healer can adapt it. Lyra's eyes widened. You had it all along? He gave a faint smile. Humans trade in everything, remember? Before she could thank him, the door on the far side exploded inward, and armed figures in dark armor stormed in. Their helmets glowed red, and strange symbols flickered on their chest plates. Lyra gasped. They're from the Dominion. Grant pulled her behind a crate and opened fire, bright bursts of plasma lighting the room. The invaders returned fire, energy beams slicing through metal, the air filled with heat and sparks. Lyra crouched low, clutching the case, her mind spinning. Her mother's face flashed before her eyes, weak but smiling, whispering, "Don't give up, my little light." Grant threw a smoke canister, covering the room in a thick gray cloud. He grabbed Lyra's arm. "This way," he shouted, pulling her toward the maintenance tunnel. They crawled through the narrow shaft, the sound of boots and shouting fading behind them. Lyra's hands shook, her breathing uneven. The tunnel lights flickered, showing bits of metal and coolant dripping from broken pipes. "Why are they chasing me?" she asked, voice breaking. "I only wanted medicine." Grant sighed, crawling ahead. "Because those treasures aren't just family relics," he said. "They're ancient reactors, part of a lost power source. The Dominion's been hunting for them for decades." She blinked, stunned. "Reactors? But they've been in my family for centuries." "Exactly," Grant replied, glancing back. "Your people probably forgot what they truly were. You just carried the legacy without knowing it." The tunnel ended at a hatch leading outside. Grant kicked it open, revealing the night sky of Arvin filled with burning ships and chaos. The attack had spread through the entire port. They climbed out onto the surface platform, the cold wind hitting their faces below. The city glowed red from fire and plasma bursts. Lyra stared in horror. "They're destroying everything." Grant gritted his teeth, scanning the horizon. "They're trying to erase evidence. They don't want anyone to know humans were here, or that those crystals exist." A small shuttle broke through the clouds above them. Descending fast, its engines roared as it hovered nearby. The cockpit lights flashing, Grant waved his arm, signaling it. "Our ride's here," he said. The shuttle landed hard, its doors opening automatically. A small drone voice echoed, "Captain Grant." "Emergency extraction confirmed." Lyra looked confused. "Captain?" she repeated. Grant smirked slightly. "I didn't mention that part yet." They stepped inside, and the shuttle lifted off quickly, leaving behind the burning port. Lyra pressed her hand against the window, watching her world shrink below, her chest heavy with guilt and fear. Grant handed her a small medical injector. "For your mother," he said softly. "Use it carefully, it's strong." Tears filled her eyes. "Why are you helping me?" "You don't even know me." Grant looked out the window, his face unreadable. "Because once someone helped me the same way," he said. "And because humans don't leave good people behind." The shuttle cut through the storm clouds, flying toward the dark horizon. But even as Lyra held the serum close, she felt something deep inside, an uneasy feeling that this was not over. Behind them, the Dominion ship turned its cannons toward the escaping shuttle, engines roaring as it locked on. Grant's expression hardened. "Hold tight," he said, gripping the controls. "They want to chase? They'll get one." and with a burst of light the shuttle vanished into the storm, leaving Arvin in flames. The stars outside looked cold and endless, streaking past as the small shuttle raced through the blackness of space. Inside, the hum of the engines was the only sound. Lyra sat quietly, clutching the small vial Grant had given her. The blue liquid shimmered inside like captured light. Her mother's last hope. Grant sat in the pilot's seat, his hands moving across the glowing controls. His eyes stayed on the radar, watching the blinking red dots behind them. Dominion ships. Fast and closing, they're still following, Lyra whispered. Fear in her voice. Grant nodded without turning. They won't give up easily. You have something they've been chasing for centuries. She looked down at her small case. Still locked shut. I didn't know, she said softly. They were just my family's memories. Grant's voice was calm but heavy. Sometimes memories are the most dangerous things in the galaxy. The shuttle shook as an explosion flashed near their tail. The Dominion ships fired plasma bursts that exploded in bright rings. Grant pulled a lever hard, sending the shuttle diving down. The stars blurred as they plunged toward a glowing nebula below. Hold on, he shouted. The ship rattled, alarms blaring, but he kept his grip firm. Lyra screamed as the gravity pulled her back into the seat. The shuttle dove straight into the clouds of the nebula, purple and gold light surrounding them like fog. Static danced across the hull, and for a moment, everything outside vanished in blinding color. Then silence. The Dominion ships hesitated outside the storm. Unable to follow through the charged field, Grant exhaled slowly, flipping a few switches to stabilize the engines. They won't risk flying into this, he said. We bought some time. Lyra looked out the window, eyes wide. It's beautiful, she whispered. The nebula shimmered like a living sea, waves of light rippling across the void. Grant smiled faintly. Beautiful and deadly. Just like most things out here. He turned off the alarms and looked back at her. Now tell me everything. She hesitated, then opened her case slowly. The 3 crystals glowed softly, lighting her face in blue. They've been in my family for generations, she began. My mother told me they hold the songs of our ancestors. When we touch them, we can see memories, old worlds, faces long gone. Grant studied them closely. His brow furrowed. Memory cores, maybe, he said. But these are more than that. They look like energy stabilizers from pre-Union times. Human science never made anything like this, pre-Union, she repeated. Thousands of years ago, Grant explained. Before the Galactic Council formed, there were wars between the first spacefaring races. Entire planets were lost. Civilizations erased, but some tech survived. Buried, hidden, Lyra's eyes widened. You think my people were part of that? Grant nodded slowly. If those cores are real, then yes. And that means your mother's family guarded something ancient. Something the Dominion wants. Lyra shook her head. But we're just traders, farmers. Not warriors. Grant gave her a small, sad smile. Sometimes the ones who keep the peace are the ones who saved the galaxy before it forgot. The ship's sensors beeped softly, showing radiation spikes from the nebula. Grant adjusted the flight path. We'll need to stop soon, he said. The engines can't take this for long. Where will we go? She asked. There's a human outpost nearby, he said. A medical base on the edge of the frontier. They can help your mother. Lyra's eyes filled with tears of relief. Thank you, Grant, she whispered. He turned away slightly. Don't thank me yet, he muttered. If they track us there, it'll put everyone in danger. The silence stretched between them for a while. The hum of the engines and the soft light from the crystals were the only things breaking it. Then Lyra asked quietly, Why did you become a traitor? Grant chuckled softly. Traitor? I'm not one anymore, he said. I used to be a soldier, Terran Defense Fleet. We fought the Dominion once a long time ago. Her eyes widened. You fought them, and survived? He shrugged. Barely. They took everything from us, my crew, my planet. Gone. He paused, voice tight. That's why I help people now. Because no one helped us. Lyra watched him in silence. Feeling the weight in his words, she finally understood the pain behind his calm eyes. The ship beeped again, breaking the quiet. We're close, Grant said. Hold on. The nebula cleared, revealing a dark blue planet ahead, dotted with lights from orbital stations. That's Hope Station, he said. Human med base. They'll have what your mother needs, Lyra smiled weakly. Tears rolling down her cheeks. I can't believe it. She'll live. Grant looked at her and nodded. She will, he said softly. Humans keep their promises, but as they approached the planet, the sensors screamed again. Red lights flashing across the dashboard, Grant cursed under his breath. No. They found us. On the radar, multiple Dominion ships appeared, breaking through the nebula storm. Faster and stronger than before, Lyra gasped. How did they? They must have tagged the crystals, Grant growled, pulling the throttle. They're coming straight for us. Outside the window, the stars began to twist as the shuttle dove toward the planet. Engines roaring, Lyra held onto the seat. Her heart racing, Grant's voice was steady. No matter what happens, Lyra, get that serum to your mother. She looked at him, fear and trust mixing in her eyes. What about you? He smiled faintly. Humans don't run from a fight, he said, his voice low and firm. Especially when someone's counting on them. The Dominion fleet fired, lighting up the sky, and the human shuttle plunged into the firestorm of space, heading straight for Hope Station. The sky above Hope Station turned red as the first Dominion blasts hit the orbital shields. The massive defense barrier flickered, sending ripples of energy across the clouds. Grant's shuttle entered the atmosphere fast, leaving a burning trail behind. The engines screamed as metal plates glowed white from heat. Lyra held onto the seat, her heart pounding. We're going to crash, she cried. Grant gritted his teeth, pulling the control stick with both hands. Not today, he shouted. The shuttle twisted, fighting gravity and plasma storms. Smoke filled the cabin, alarms flashed everywhere. Through the cracked glass of the cockpit, the giant ring of Hope Station appeared below, floating in the clouds like a halo of steel and light. Medical ships were taking off in panic, trying to flee. While defense drones fired at the Dominion fleet above, Grant opened the comms channel, his voice steady. This is Captain Grant Mason. Terran Shuttle Alpha 17 requesting emergency docking. We're under pursuit by Dominion forces. Static filled the radio, then a voice answered. Copy, Alpha 17, shields are unstable, get in fast. The shuttle's wings rattled as it dove, dodging bursts of plasma that lit up the sky like lightning. Lyra closed her eyes, whispering her mother's name. Please, just hold on a little longer. Grant pulled the ship into a sharp descent. Slamming through the lower clouds, a Dominion fighter followed close, firing bright blue beams that sliced through the air. One blast tore off a side panel, sparks flying across the cockpit. Grant cursed, Hold tight. He jerked the ship sideways, letting the enemy fire hit a nearby drone instead. The explosion sent debris scattering everywhere. But the move cost them altitude. The shuttle spun out of control, alarms screaming, Grant! Lyra shouted, grabbing the control panel. He fought the controls, sweat on his brow. Almost there. They crashed hard onto the emergency runway of Hope Station, metal screeching as the shuttle skidded across the deck. Sparks flew as the ship slammed into a barrier and came to a stop. The engines died with a heavy hiss. For a long moment, everything was silent. Then Grant unbuckled his seat, coughing through the smoke. You alive? He asked. Lyra nodded weakly, clutching the serum. Yes. But they're still coming. He looked at the sky through the broken viewport. Dominion ships were breaking through the atmosphere, descending fast like black shadows. Grant pulled a weapon from the wall, checked the charge, and opened the shuttle door. We move now, he said. Stay close and don't stop. They stepped out onto the landing bay. Chaos all around, alarms blared, soldiers ran, and medics rushed to load patients onto ships. The air smelled of fuel and burning metal. Lyra followed Grant through the smoke, clutching her small case. Where's the medical wing? She shouted over the noise. South section, Grant replied, pointing ahead. We can get there through the service tunnels. They ran down a narrow corridor, the lights flickering overhead. Each step echoed through the metal floor. Lyra's heart raced. Every explosion outside reminded her how close death was. Suddenly, the floor shook violently. The wall beside them blew open, sending fire and smoke through the tunnel. Lyra screamed as she fell. Grant grabbed her arm, pulling her up and move. They ran through the smoke, reaching a wide-open chamber filled with injured civilians. Human doctors and alien healers worked side by side, shouting orders. Grant waved at one of the medics. I've got a patient who needs the human serum, immediately. The medic looked up, covered in soot. All right, bring it here. Lyra placed the vial in his hands, trembling. Please save her, she whispered. The medic nodded and ran toward the treatment room. Disappearing into the crowd, Lyra's eyes filled with tears. It's done, she whispered. She'll live, Grant gave a faint smile. You did it, he said. You saved her. But before relief could settle, the ground shook again, the ceiling cracked, and a warning siren screamed louder than before. Grant turned toward the window, his expression turned cold. No. Outside, the Dominion battleship hovered over the station, massive cannons glowing bright red. A single shot could destroy everything. Everyone. Evacuate now. A voice shouted through the speakers. Grant grabbed Lyra's hand. We need to go. But my mother, she cried, tears spilling down her face. He looked at her, pain flashing in his eyes. If we stay, we all die. She hesitated, torn between fear and love. But another explosion ripped through the hallway, forcing her to move. Grant pulled her through the emergency doors as fire spread behind them. They reached the escape pods bay, several already launched into the sky. Grant pushed her inside one. You go first, he ordered. What about you? She asked, panicking. I'll cover you, he said firmly. Go now, Lyra. She shook her head. No. You can't stay here. Grant smiled faintly, his eyes calm even as the station burned around them. Humans don't break promises, he said quietly. I'll find you again. Before she could argue, he slammed the pod's door shut and hit the launch button. The pod shot out into space, spinning away from the burning station. Through the small glass window, Lyra saw the station explode in a wave of light. The Dominion ship fired again, tearing the ring apart. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, Grant. Her pod floated into the void, the blue planet shrinking below behind her. Hope Station, the symbol of peace, fell in silence. The escape pod drifted through the endless dark, its small lights flickering weakly. Lyra sat inside, holding the case to her chest. Her eyes were red, her heart heavy. She could still see the fire in the distance, where Hope Station once floated. Now only debris glowing like dying stars. The silence of space pressed around her, no sound, no motion. Just the soft hum of the pod's life support, she whispered to herself. Please, let him be alive. The console blinked weakly, showing a faint signal ahead, a small human ship nearby. Her pulse quickened. She activated the beacon and waited, watching the radar. Every second felt like an eternity. Finally, a voice came through the static, rough but familiar. This is the Terran vessel Resolute. We picked up your distress signal. Identify yourself. Lyra leaned forward, pressing the button. Lyra, I escaped Hope Station. The Dominion destroyed it. Please help me. The reply came after a pause. You're safe now, we've got you, hold tight. Moments later, the ship appeared in the darkness. Large, dark gray, its surface scarred from old battles. The escape pod docked automatically, and the door hissed open with a puff of air. Lyra stepped inside, trembling. Human soldiers stood in the corridor, their faces serious but kind. A tall officer walked forward, removing his helmet. His voice was calm. You're lucky. We don't often find survivors out here. Lyra looked around, desperate. Grant, is he here, the one who helped me? The officer frowned slightly. Grant Mason? He asked. Yes. We received his last transmission. Her heart lifted for a moment. He's alive? The officer's face softened. He stayed behind, to hold the Dominion back while we cleared the last civilians, he said quietly. We lost contact before the station fell. Lyra's knees weakened. She sank down, tears spilling down her face. He promised he'd come back, she whispered. The officer placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. He kept his promise. In his own way, he said, without him. None of those escape pods would have made it. She closed her eyes, pain and pride mixing in her chest. He saved everyone. The officer nodded. That's what humans do. He led her to the med bay where healers worked around the clock. The air smelled of disinfectant and warm light hummed across the white walls. Lyra froze when she saw her mother lying on a medical bed. Weak but breathing, tubes and monitors surrounded her. A human doctor looked up from the console. Smiling gently, she'll live, he said. The serum worked perfectly. Lyra ran to her mother. Tears of relief in her eyes, she took her hand and whispered, You're safe now, Mama, you're safe. Her mother smiled faintly, her voice barely above a whisper. You found help, didn't you? Lyra nodded. Yes, a human helped me, she said softly. He saved us. Her mother's eyes shone weakly. Then, never forget them, she said. The stories say they were once the protectors of the stars. Before Lyra could ask what she meant, a loud beep came from the ship's comm system. The officer turned sharply. Incoming transmission. Encrypted human code. The main screen lit up, showing a grainy image. Smoke, fire, and then a figure, burned but alive, sitting inside a ruined cockpit. It was Grant. Lyra gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "Grant!" His voice came through, rough and weak. "Looks like I'm harder to kill than they thought," he said, coughing. "Dominion fleet's retreating. I might have left them a little surprise," the officer smiled. "He triggered the failsafe," he muttered. "That madman blew the Dominion core ships from inside their warp." Lyra leaned close to the screen, tears rolling down her cheeks. "You're alive," she whispered. Grant smiled faintly, his face bruised but eyes still warm. "Told you humans don't break promises," he said softly. "Is your mother safe?" "She is," Lyra replied, her voice shaking. "Or it's because of you." He nodded slowly. "Good. Then it was worth it." "Grant, where are you?" she asked quickly. "We can send a ship." He shook his head weakly. "No time. The blast tore my ship apart. Life support's fading," he said, his voice slowing. "Just tell your people. Humans still keep their word." The signal flickered, the image faded. "Grant, wait," Lyra cried, pressing the console, but the screen went dark. Silence filled the room. Everyone stood still. The only sound was the hum of the ship and the soft breath of the recovering patients. Lyra lowered her head, her tears falling quietly, but in her heart there was no sadness, only pride and warmth. Later, when the Resolute reached orbit around a safe planet, the humans held a small ceremony in Grant's memory. Lyra stood beside them, holding the 3 glowing crystals. She spoke softly. "He gave me more than my mother's life," she said, her voice calm. "He showed me what humanity truly is, and courage, kindness, and sacrifice." The officer beside her nodded. "That's our way," he said quietly. "When the galaxy forgets, we remind them." Lyra looked at the sky, the stars shining bright once again, and whispered, "You kept your promise, Grant." She pressed one of the glowing crystals to her chest. The light pulsed softly, merging with the ship's hum. It was as if the stars themselves listened. And somewhere beyond the nebula, beyond the reach of the Dominion, a single Terran beacon flickered alive, a sign that humanity still watched over the galaxy. The end.